guys, what's up? Welcome back to Weekly Academics, and you're listening to Faiza Inamdar. So, this podcast is the second part of our third chapter, that is the early nationalists. And in the first one, we looked at the characteristics, the nature, and the objectives of the early nationalists. And as I said, in this part, we'll be looking towards their beliefs, what their ideology basically was, and their methods of struggle. How did they actually do the work that they did? What was the methods that they used to achieve these objectives? So that's what we'll be looking in this podcast, the beliefs and the methods of struggle of the early nationalists. So let's get into it. This is a small part, very easy to understand. There is nothing to remember as such, just clear understanding, a clear idea that we can derive itself from the characteristics and from the objectives that we've done in the previous podcast. So for the ones who've listened to the previous podcast on characteristics and objectives, this part, the beliefs and methods of struggle, will be very, very easy. It's very small and very easy. So let's get into it quickly. First, we'll look into what their beliefs were. Now, beliefs as in what was their basic ideology about the British sense of justice, about the British administration, and about independence as a whole thing. Okay, so the early nationalists, as we've seen, were very moderate, and they had ultimate faith in the British sense of justice. This we've seen in the previous podcast also. That was the first characteristics. So they had ultimate faith, unlimited faith in the British sense of justice and fair play. They believed that it was a great thing that they had connections with the British. They looked towards the British for inspiration, for guidance. In the first session of the Indian National Congress, the entire Congress gave 3 cheers for A.O. Hume because he had helped a lot, right? He is known as the father or founder of INC. So they gave 3 cheers for Hume, and Hume answered those cheers, those greetings, by giving 3 cheers for the Queen, for Her Majesty. So indirectly, if you see, the praise still goes to the British, still goes to the Queen. And the congressmen, the early nationalists, did not really have any opposition to this. They believed that they were proud. They were proud of their British connections. As I said, they looked towards the British for inspiration and for guidance. To be very clear about this, the early nationalists acknowledged the good that British brought to India. For example, Dadabhai Naoroji, he very honestly recognized the benefits that the people of England had brought to India, like English language, Western education, the modern means of communication and transport, like the railways, telegraphs. All this was brought to India by them. So they appreciated it. Even while they criticized the government, they did it in a very moderate way. They did not, go harsh. They just did it in a moderate way. They tried to convince the government. Okay? And their major belief was that if the government is convinced that about their genuine grievances, about the genuine needs of the reforms, they believe that their demands will be fulfilled. That was one of the major beliefs that they had. Okay, now let's look into that's basically the belief part of it. Let's look into the methods of struggle now. So how did they go about their work? That's what we're going to look in this part. So the early nationalists, they did not really believe in agitation or unconstitutional methods. They believed that it's by constitutional agitation alone that political and economic reforms could be achieved. So they did not want to go do any unconstitutional methods or anarchy or anything like that. They wanted to go completely as per the constitution, as per the constitutional rules and regulations. And as I said, they never wanted the termination of the British rule, just wanted to mitigate the evil of British rule and not terminate it. They took pride in British being there in India, but they wanted to mitigate the evil part of the British rule so that the common people in India do not suffer. That was their main motive. Okay, So the early nationalists, they did not believe in agitation or unconstitutional methods. So now, if not unconstitutional methods, if they have to do everything and anything by constitutional methods, so what did they do? How did they agitate? How did they promote their objectives or inform people? So there were 6 ways in which they did that. They sent petitions to the high government officials, properly drafted petitions. They sent petitions. They made resolutions. They held meetings in towns, cities, and countrysides to inform the people, to get public opinion. So as we'd seen in the objectives, to train and organize public opinion. So accordingly, if you relate this and that, it will be easy to understand. So they held meetings in towns, cities, and countrysides. They distributed leaflets and pamphlets so that people know that there are meetings and that this is going on in the country and these political decisions are being taken, etc. They prepared memorandums for the government committees. There were various committees that the government had, right? So they prepared memorandums to be given to the government committees. They also sent delegation of leading politicians to England to talk about the genuine Indian grievances directly into the English Parliament. So the 6 ways in which they agitated was: number 1, sending petitions to the high government officials; number 2, resolutions; 3rd, meetings in towns, cities, and countrysides; 4th, distribution of leaflets and pamphlets; 5th, preparing memorandums for the government committees; 6th, delegation of leading politicians to England. So all the petitions and memorandums, everything was addressed to the government. And as I said, they believed that if the government is convinced about the genuine need of reform, their demands will be fulfilled. Therefore, they tried their best to convince the government that there is some need for reform. And that's how they wanted to mitigate the evil of British rule and not terminate it. So that's it. That's the methods of struggle and their belief. It's a very small and very easy part, very quick to understand. So that's it for now. I'll get back to you with the contributions of Dadabhai Naoroji, who was one of the early nationalists. And until then, you're listening to Faiza Inamdar at Weekly Academics. Also, until then, if you want to listen to something quiet, soothing, calm, relaxing, beautiful, you can always listen to Your Life in My Voice, which are podcasts made by Dr. Sabia, and they're completely available on YouTube. So go check that out. And do like my podcast, do like this podcast, share it with your friends. For better understanding, look into the other podcasts also that I have posted earlier. They are all available on YouTube. Some are also available on Instagram. You can feel free to put all your feedbacks, all your comments, any of your doubts in the comments section, or you can DM me at weekly.academics. If you want me to make podcasts on certain specific chapters, you can feel free to put it down in the comment section or DM me. And until then, you're listening to Faiza Inamdar at Weekly Academics. Do subscribe, like, and share. Be home, be safe, take care. Bye-bye.